So this year I'm asking, why is speculative fiction important? Junot Diaz.
Well, I think that speculative fiction has been among the more reliable ways that people are able to explore and express interests and concerns that are not often easily explored or expressed in more conventional and traditional forms. I think realism has its limits, and the extreme reality and extreme experiences that often make up a lot of what we call life find themselves far more aptly rendered and aptly sort of complicated in things like science fiction, like horror, like fantasy. And I think that without these forms, a huge portion of what we call life is missing and would be missing.
With the number of literary fiction writers or people who are published as literary fiction, like you having an interest in speculative fiction or writing speculative fiction, do you think that the genre categories as they exist should continue to exist, like the walls of having this in this part of the bookstore and this in that part of the bookstore, or do you think we should abolish them, or do you think that these distinctions have an importance that we need to hang on to?
But I think that to discuss what the genre distinctions are, one has to understand that they're determined at multiple levels. They're not just a simple marketing thing, that there's plenty of people who want to play in the genres as constructed. But also I think that to think about what we mean by sort of the divisions, we really got to talk about privilege, and we got to talk about who gets privileged. If a literary fiction writer writes science fiction, it's a totally different thing than if someone who's been writing the Hulk for the last 20 years decides to write a literary fiction novel. And I think that the power and the access to privilege and the access to prizes tends to flow unidirectionally. People who come with a really good literary fiction passport are allowed to travel anywhere, but folks with a genre passport tend to be questioned again and again at the borders of quote-unquote more respectable forms. And of course I'm not really interested in these borders, but I have to say that we really need to recognize how they're working if we really want them to change.